Gabriel Ashford never cared who he married until his father chose a plain, unremarkable librarian for him. But Lillian Gray isn't what she seems. Behind oversized glasses and a severe bun lies a woman hiding from a deadly past. When Gabriel uncovers her secret, will he protect her or walk away? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Gabriel Ashford straightened his tie as he waited in his father's office. At 35, he was already the face of Ashford Industries, one of the largest real estate development companies on the East Coast. His cold gray eyes reflected the Manhattan skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but his mind was elsewhere. "You wanted to see me, Father?" Gabriel asked as Richard Ashford entered the room, leaning heavily on his cane. Richard nodded, lowering himself into his leather chair. "It's time we discuss the future of this company. My health isn't what it used to be." Gabriel tensed. This wasn't news. His father's heart condition had been worsening over the past year. "What do you need me to do?" "The board is concerned about stability. They want assurance that the company will remain strong through any transition." Richard pulled out a folder. "They want you to be married before I step down." "Married?" Gabriel's voice hardened. "Since when does my personal life matter to the board?" "Since you became next in line to run a billion-dollar company. They want stability, traditional values. You're known for your revolving door of women. It doesn't inspire confidence." Gabriel clenched his jaw. "So, I'm supposed to find a wife to please the board?" "I've already found one." Richard pushed the folder across the desk. "Lillian Gray, 28, works as a librarian. No family connections to speak of, no scandals. Perfect for our needs." Gabriel flipped open the folder. The photo showed a plain woman with oversized glasses, her brown hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wore no makeup and her expression was neutral. "She's not what I expected," Gabriel said carefully. "That's the point. She's not after your money or status. I had her thoroughly investigated. She keeps to herself, works hard, pays her bills on time. She's agreed to the arrangement. And why would she do that? Stability, security, the chance to make a difference with our charitable foundation. She had her reasons." Gabriel closed the folder. "And if I refuse? Then I'll name your cousin Marcus as my successor. But we both know he'll run this company into the ground within a year." The threat hung in the air. Gabriel had worked too hard to let everything fall into his cousin's incompetent hands. "Fine," Gabriel said coldly. "When do I meet her?" "Tomorrow. The wedding is scheduled for next month." Gabriel stood up. "Is that all?" "One more thing." Richard's voice softened slightly. "This isn't the worst thing in the world, son. Marriage might be good for you." Gabriel didn't respond. He tucked the folder under his arm and left the office, his mind already calculating how to minimize the impact this would have on his life. Lillian Gray pushed her glasses up her nose as she entered the upscale restaurant. Her plain gray dress hung loosely on her slender frame, and she had purposely applied her makeup to dull rather than enhance her features. A hostess approached her. "Ms. Gray, Mr. Ashford is waiting for you." Lillian followed her to a private dining area where a tall, imposing man in an expensive suit stood waiting. Gabriel Ashford was more handsome in person than in the photographs she'd seen, sharp jawline, intense eyes, broad shoulders, but his expression was cold, calculating. "Ms. Gray," he said, not bothering to smile as he extended his hand. "Mr. Ashford." Her voice was quiet but steady as they shook hands. They sat down and an uncomfortable silence stretched between them until Gabriel spoke. "Let's be clear about what this is. My father believes this arrangement will benefit the company. I have no interest in a real marriage, but I'm willing to play my part." Lillian nodded. "I understand. I'm not looking for love either." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, that she hadn't protested or gotten emotional? "Good. Then we're in agreement. The wedding will be small but elegant. After that, you'll have your own suite in my penthouse. We'll appear together at important events. Otherwise, our lives remain separate." "I have a few conditions," Lillian said. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. "Such as?" "I want to continue working at the library, at least part-time, and I'd like to be involved in the Ashford Foundation's literacy programs." "Fine. Anything else?" Lillian hesitated. "I prefer my privacy. No photographs without my knowledge, and I don't want details of my past life investigated further. Gabriel studied her. There was something off about this woman, something she was hiding. But that wasn't his concern as long as it didn't affect the company. Agreed, provided there are no surprises that could damage the Ashford name. There won't be, she said quickly. Too quickly. Gabriel made a mental note to have his security team keep an eye on her, just in case. Then I believe we're done here. My assistant will contact you about the arrangements. As they parted ways, Gabriel watched Lillian walk away. There was something about her gait, her posture, at odds with her plain appearance. It was as if she was deliberately trying to be unremarkable, intriguing but ultimately irrelevant. This was a business arrangement, nothing more. The wedding was exactly as Gabriel had specified, elegant, tasteful, and small. Only 50 guests attended the ceremony at the Ashford family estate. Lillian wore a simple white dress, her hair still in its severe bun, her glasses firmly in place. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. Gabriel leaned down and pressed his lips briefly against Lillian's. It was their first physical contact beyond handshakes, and something unexpected happened. A jolt of awareness passed between them. Lillian's eyes widened behind her glasses, and Gabriel pulled back too quickly. At the reception, Richard approached his son. "Congratulations. The board is pleased." "Then my job is done," Gabriel said dryly. "Give her a chance, Gabriel. There might be more to her than meets the eye." Gabriel glanced across the room where Lillian was speaking quietly with one of his aunts. "I doubt that." Later that evening, they arrived at Gabriel's penthouse. A staff member showed Lillian to her suite. "This will be your area," Gabriel explained, standing at the doorway. "My rooms are on the other side of the apartment. We share the living room, kitchen, and balcony." Lillian nodded, taking in the spacious bedroom, sitting area, and luxurious bathroom. "Thank you, it's very nice. I'll leave you to settle in. Good night, Mrs. Ashford." The name sounded strange to both of them. Gabriel turned to leave. "Mr. Ashford," Lillian called after him, "I want you to know that I'll do my best to be the wife the company needs. That's all I ask." He closed the door behind him. Over the next few weeks, they settled into a routine. Gabriel left early for work and returned late. Lillian went to the library 3 days a week and spent the other days at the Ashford Foundation. Offices developing literacy programs. They rarely saw each other, which suited Gabriel fine. When they did attend events together, Lillian played her part perfectly. Quiet, supportive, unmemorable. But Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Sometimes he caught her staring out the window with an intensity that didn't match her meek personality. Or he'd notice how she always checked the locks twice before bed, how she tensed when strangers approached her. One evening, they were preparing to attend a charity gala, their first major public appearance since the wedding. "The car will be here at 7, Gabriel said, adjusting his cufflinks. "We'll stay for 2 hours, then make our exit." Lillian emerged from her room in a conservative black dress, her usual glasses in place. "I'm ready." "You should wear something more colorful," Gabriel remarked. "You look like you're attending a funeral." "I prefer to blend in." "As my wife, you don't have that luxury. People will be watching us." Lillian frowned. "I don't have anything else appropriate." Gabriel sighed. "Fine. We'll go shopping tomorrow." At the gala, Lillian stayed close to Gabriel's side, smiling politely, but speaking little. Several business associates approached them, clearly curious about the new Mrs. Ashford. "So how did you two meet?" asked James Wilson, one of Gabriel's biggest investors. "Through family connections," Gabriel answered smoothly. "And what did you do before marrying? Into the Ashford dynasty?" Another guest asked Lillian directly. I am a librarian," she replied. "How quaint," the woman said with a barely concealed smirk. Gabriel felt a flare of unexpected protectiveness. "My wife's work with literacy programs has been invaluable to our foundation. Not everyone measures success by their bank account, Mrs. Foster." Lillian glanced at him in surprise as the woman retreated, flustered. Later, as they danced, Gabriel held Lillian stiffly, maintaining a proper distance. "Thank you for defending me," she said quietly. "You're an Ashford now. No one insults my family. Is that all I am to you? A name, The question caught him off guard. What else would you be? Lillian looked away. Nothing. Forget I asked. When they returned home, Gabriel went straight to his study, but his concentration was shot. That brief moment of connection during their dance had disturbed him more than he cared to admit. There was a knock on his door. "Come in," he called. Lillian entered, still in her gala dress but looking tired. "I wanted to say good night." "Good night," he replied, turning back to his computer. She lingered, then said, "I know this isn't a real marriage, but we could at least try to be friends." Gabriel looked up, surprised. "Friends? That wasn't part of our agreement." "No, but it might make the next few years easier." She gave him a small smile, the first genuine one he'd seen from her, and left. That night, Gabriel found himself standing outside Lillian's door, his hand raised to knock. He heard movement inside, drawers opening and closing, water running. What was he doing? This was a business arrangement, nothing more. He turned and went back to his room. 2 months into their marriage, Gabriel noticed changes in Lillian. She seemed more relaxed around him, more willing to share her thoughts. They had started having dinner together occasionally, and he found her insight surprisingly sharp. But she still maintained her plain appearance, still jumped, had unexpected noises, still kept her past shrouded in mystery. One evening, Gabriel returned home earlier than usual. The penthouse was quiet. "Lillian?" he called out. No answer. He checked the kitchen, the living room, then approached her suite. The door was slightly ajar. "Lillian, are you—" He pushed the door open and froze. Lillian stood in front of her bathroom mirror, but she was almost unrecognizable. Her glasses were gone, revealing striking green eyes. Her hair hung loose in cascading waves down her back. The drab makeup she usually wore had been washed away, revealing flawless skin, high cheekbones, and full lips. She was beautiful. Stunning even. She gasped when she saw him, instinctively reaching for a towel to cover herself, though she was fully dressed. "Gabriel, I didn't hear you come in." Gabriel stared, unable to process the transformation. "Who are you?" Fear flashed across her face. "What do you mean?" "This." He gestured at her. "What is this?" "Some kind of disguise." Lillian's hand trembled as she put down the towel. "I can explain. Please do." His voice was ice cold. "Because it seems my wife isn't who she claimed to be at all." "I never claimed to be anyone else," she said, her voice stronger now. "I'm still Lillian Gray. But this," he indicated her appearance, "this is deliberate deception." "Why?" She looked away. "It's complicated. I'm a fast learner." Lillian took a deep breath. "I need to know first. Will you keep what I tell you confidential? Even from your father, from everyone?" Gabriel studied her, this beautiful stranger who was legally his wife. "That depends on what you tell me." "Then I can't explain," she said, reaching for her glasses on the counter. Gabriel caught her wrist. "No more hiding, no more lies. Tell me the truth, or this arrangement ends now." Lillian looked up at him, vulnerability and determination warring in her eyes. "So I'm hiding from someone dangerous. My appearance is protection." "Who?" "I can't—" "Who, Lillian?" "My ex-fiancé," she finally said. "He's not who people think he is. He's powerful, connected. If he found me—" Gabriel's grip on her wrist loosened. "Did he hurt you?" The look in her eyes told him everything. "That's why you agreed to marry me," Gabriel realized. "For protection?" "Partly," she admitted. "Your family's resources, your security, and yes, your name. He wouldn't dare come after me as an Ashford." Gabriel released her and stepped back, processing this information. "So our entire marriage is based on you using me as a shield. Isn't that what you're doing too? Using me to please the board?" Lillian challenged. "We're using each other, Gabriel. I just didn't tell you all my reasons." He couldn't argue with that. "Who is he? This ex-fiancé?" Lillian shook her head. "I can't tell you that. Not yet. Please, Gabriel. I need to know if I can trust you." Gabriel looked at her, really looked at her. Beyond the beauty that she'd been hiding, he saw fear, yes, but also strength. She had survived something terrible and had been clever enough to find a way to protect herself. "You can stay," he said finally, "for now. But no more secrets between us. Is that clear?" Lillian nodded, relief washing over her face. As Gabriel turned to leave, a new thought struck him. This woman, his wife, was a mystery he suddenly felt compelled to solve, and more disturbingly, the protective instinct that had flared earlier at the gala was now burning much stronger. "One more thing," he said, pausing at the door. "You don't need to wear the disguise when we're alone." Before she could respond, he closed the door, his mind racing with questions about the woman he had married and the danger that might be following her. Gabriel couldn't sleep that night. The image of Lillian, the real Lillian, kept appearing in his mind. Those green eyes, that cascading hair, those features she'd been so carefully hiding. Why would a woman that beautiful choose to disguise herself? He got up at dawn and made his way to the kitchen, surprised to find Lillian already there. She was back in her disguise, glasses, severe bun, plain clothes. But now that he knew what lay beneath, he couldn't unsee it. "Good morning," she said quietly, pouring coffee into a mug and offering it to him. "Thank you." He accepted the coffee, studying her face. "We need to talk more about this situation." Lillian nodded, her hands fidgeting with her own mug. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Start from the beginning." She took a deep breath. "My real name is Lillian Gray. That much is true. I grew up in Boston, went to college there, and got a job at the public library. That's also true. And the part you left out? I met James Harrington 3 years ago at a charity event. He's the son of Senator Harrington." Gabriel's eyebrows shot up. The Harringtons were almost as powerful as the Ashfords, but in politics rather than business. He was charming, attentive. We started dating, and it was wonderful at first. 6 months later, we were engaged. Lillian's voice grew quieter. "That's when things changed." She set down her mug. "He became controlling, jealous. He monitored my phone, my emails, told me what to wear, who I could see. When I tried to break it off, She swallowed hard. "He hurt me. Said no one would believe me over a Harrington." Gabriel felt a surge of anger. "Did you go to the police?" Lillian laughed bitterly. "His father plays golf with the police commissioner. The one time I tried, the report mysteriously disappeared." "What about your family?" "My parents died when I was in college. Car accident. I have a sister, but she lives abroad. After what happened with James, I thought it was safer for her if we weren't in contact." Gabriel leaned against the counter, processing this information. "So you ran?" "Yes. I changed my appearance, moved to New York, took the job at the library. I kept to myself, lived quietly. Then your father approached me with the marriage proposal. And you saw an opportunity." Lillian met his gaze directly. "Yes. I knew James would never come after me if I was married to Gabriel Ashford. Your family is one of the few that could stand up to the Harringtons. So I'm just protection to you." There was an edge to his voice that surprised even him. "At first, yes," she admitted. But what?" She looked away. "Nothing." Gabriel moved closer, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. "No more." "Secrets, remember?" "Fine, the truth is I didn't expect to like you." Her cheeks flushed. "You have this cold exterior, but I've seen moments of kindness, of decency. Like at the gala when you defended me." Gabriel dropped his hand as if burned. This was getting too personal, too complicated. "I need to get to the office," he said abruptly. "We'll continue this conversation later." At Ashford Industries, Gabriel found it impossible to concentrate. He kept thinking about Lillian's story, about the danger she might still be in. His assistant interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Ashford, your father is here to see you." Richard Ashford entered, moving more slowly than ever with his cane. "Son?" "Father. What brings you here?" "The Belmont Hotel deal. We need the Harrington vote on the zoning commission." Gabriel tensed at the name. "Harrington?" "Senator Harrington. His son James handles most of his business affairs now." Gabriel kept his expression neutral, even as his mind raced. "I'll take care of it." "Good. How's married life treating you?" "Fine." Richard studied his son. "Just fine. Lillian seems like a lovely woman, despite her Plain appearance. Appearances can be deceiving, Gabriel replied carefully. Indeed, the board is pleased with the stability your marriage has brought. Your cousin Marcus was quite disappointed. Gabriel barely heard him. He was already planning his next moves. If that's all, Father, I have calls to make. After Richard left, Gabriel picked up his phone. Sarah, cancel my appointments for the afternoon and find me everything you can on James Harrington. Tracy. When Gabriel returned to the penthouse that evening, he found Lillian in the living room reading. She looked up when he entered, immediately sensing his tension. What happened? She asked, setting aside her book. Gabriel threw a file onto the coffee table. James Harrington is trying to block our company's newest development project. The same James Harrington who happens to be your ex-fiancé. Lillian paled. That's a coincidence. He can't know I'm here. Can't he? Or is this part of your plan? Getting close to the Ashford family to help the Harringtons take us down? What? Lillian stood up, outraged. How dare you? I've spent years hiding from that monster. It's quite convenient that just as we're negotiating with the Harringtons, I discover my wife has a connection to them. I didn't know about any business dealings. I've been careful to avoid anything to do with them. Her voice shook with anger and hurt. Is that what you think of me? That I've been playing you this whole time? Gabriel wanted to believe her, but years of business had taught him to be suspicious. I don't know what to think, but I know I need to protect my family's interests. And what about protecting your wife? Lillian's eyes flashed with an intensity he'd never seen before. Or am I just a business asset to you? The question hit too close to home. That's exactly what she had been to him until recently. I need proof that you're not working with him, Gabriel said, his voice cold. Lillian walked up to him, removing her glasses. Even with the drab clothes and severe hairstyle, her natural beauty shone through when she was angry. Look at me, Gabriel. Really, look at me. Would I have hidden like this, lived like this, if I wasn't terrified of him finding me? Something in her eyes made him believe her. Then we have a problem, because in 3 days I'm scheduled to meet with James Harrington to discuss the Belmont project. Lillian sat down heavily, her face ashen. He can't see me. If he knows I'm here, he won't see you, Gabriel said firmly. But I need to know everything about him if I'm going to handle this meeting. For the next hour, Lillian told Gabriel everything she knew about James, his habits, his weaknesses, his business tactics. Gabriel listened intently, forming a plan. I'll keep the meeting short and professional, he assured her. He'll have no reason to connect you to me. Be careful, Lillian warned. He's charming on the surface, but dangerous underneath. So am I, Gabriel replied with a cold smile. That night, as Gabriel was working in his study, he heard a knock at the door. Come in. Lillian entered, and Gabriel's breath caught. She had removed her disguise again. Her hair was down, and she wore a simple nightgown with a robe over it. Without the glasses and drab clothing, she was stunning. I wanted to thank you, she said, for believing me. Gabriel stood, trying to maintain his composure. I haven't completely ruled out other possibilities. Fair enough. She approached his desk. But you're still protecting me, even with your doubts. That means something. The scent of her shampoo reached him as she leaned forward to place a small object on his desk. It was a thumb drive. What's this? Evidence, she said simply. Pictures of what James did to me. Hospital records. The police report that was supposedly lost. I've kept it hidden as insurance. Gabriel stared at the tiny drive. Why give this to me now? Because you need to understand what he's capable of. And, she hesitated, because I trust you. Their eyes met and something shifted between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Gabriel reached out and took the drive. I'll look at it, but you should go now. Lillian nodded, turning to leave. At the door, she paused. Gabriel, thank you. After she left, Gabriel plugged in the drive. What he saw made his blood boil. Photos of bruises, medical reports documenting broken ribs, a black eye. James Harrington had done this to her, and his family's influence had made him untouchable. In that moment, Gabriel made a decision. No one would hurt Lillian again, not while she was his wife, not while she was under his protection. Meeting with James Harrington took place in Gabriel's office. James was handsome in a polished way, with a politician's smile that never reached his eyes. "Mr. Ashford, a pleasure to finally meet you," James said, shaking Gabriel's hand firmly. "I've heard so much about you." "Likewise," Gabriel replied coolly. "Shall we get down to business?" They discussed the Belmont Hotel project, with James raising objections about zoning and environmental concerns. "My father's vote could be swayed," James said smoothly, "with the right incentives." "What did you have in mind?" "A partnership. The Harringtons and the Ashfords could do great things together." Gabriel maintained a neutral expression. "I'll consider it. Send me a proposal." As the meeting was concluding, James noticed a framed photo on Gabriel's desk, the only personal item in the otherwise austere office. It was from his wedding day, with Lillian in her disguise. "Your wife?" James asked, picking up the frame. Gabriel tensed. "Yes, we were married recently." James studied the photo. "She seems familiar somehow." "I doubt it. She's quite private." James set the photo down. "Well, congratulations. Marriage is a significant step. Indeed, my assistant will see you out." After James left, Gabriel immediately called home. When Lillian answered, he said, "He saw your photo, the one from the wedding." Her sharp intake of breath was audible. "Did he recognize me?" "He said you seemed familiar. I don't think he made the connection, but we can't take chances. What should we do?" "Pack a bag. We're going to the Hamptons' house for a few days until I figure out our next move." The Ashford estate in the Hamptons was sprawling and private, set back from the road with extensive security. Gabriel and Lillian arrived as the sun was setting, casting golden light across the manicured grounds. "You'll be safe here," Gabriel assured her as they entered the main house. "The security system was upgraded last month, and the staff is discreet." Lillian walked to the window looking out at the ocean view. "It's beautiful. It was my mother's favorite place." Gabriel rarely spoke of his mother, who had died when he was a teenager. She loved the sea. "Thank you for bringing me here," Lillian said softly. Gabriel found himself wanting to comfort her, an unfamiliar urge. "You should rest. It's been a stressful day." That night, a storm rolled in from the Atlantic. Gabriel was working in the library when a particularly loud clap of thunder shook the house. Moments later, he heard a crash from upstairs. He rushed to Lillian's room, finding her standing in the center, a broken vase at her feet. She was trembling, her eyes wide with fear. "Lillian?" He approached her carefully. "Are you all right?" "I'm sorry about the vase," she said, her voice unsteady. "The thunder startled me." Gabriel could see it was more than that. "What is it? What's wrong?" "It's nothing, just the storm, and everything with James." She tried to smile, but it faltered. "I'm fine." Gabriel stepped closer. "No, you're not." "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "All the time. For years now, I'm so tired of being scared." Without thinking, Gabriel reached out and pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for a moment, then relaxed against him, her head resting on his chest. "You're safe now," he murmured into her hair. "I won't let him hurt you again." They stood like that for a long moment, the storm raging outside while something new and unexpected sparked between them. Finally, Lillian stepped back. "I should clean this up," she said, gesturing to the broken vase. "Leave it, get some rest." As Gabriel turned to go, Lillian caught his hand. "Stay, just until I fall asleep. I don't want to be alone tonight." Gabriel hesitated, then nodded. "I'll stay." He sat in a chair by her bed as she lay down. Within minutes, exhaustion overtook her, and she drifted off to sleep. Gabriel watched her, noticing how peaceful she looked without the weight of fear. Something protective and possessive stirred within him, feelings he had never experienced before. This woman, with her quiet strength and hidden beauty, had somehow breached the walls around his heart. The realization unsettled him. Emotions were messy, unpredictable. He had always prided himself on his control, his ability to keep feelings out of his decisions. But as he watched Lillian sleep, Gabriel knew something had changed. Their marriage of convenience had become something else, something he wasn't ready to name but couldn't deny. He gently brushed a strand of hair from her face, then quietly left the room. The next morning, Gabriel was on the phone with his security team when Lillian entered the kitchen. She had foregone her disguise, her hair loose around her shoulders, wearing casual clothes that actually fit her properly. "Any news?" she asked as he ended the call. "James Harrington has been asking questions about you. My sources say he's requested our marriage certificate." Lillian paled. "He's suspicious. We need to be prepared. If he connects you to Lillian Gray, what do we do?" Gabriel's expression hardened. "We fight back. I've had my team pulling together everything they can find. On the Harringtons, legal troubles, business irregularities, political scandals. That won't stop him. He's obsessed. Then we'll give him a new obsession." Gabriel's smile was cold. "The Harringtons care about their reputation above all else. If they're facing a public scandal, they won't have time to worry about you." Lillian shook her head. "You don't understand how powerful they are. And you don't understand how powerful the Ashfords are," Gabriel countered. "Easy. More importantly, you don't understand how far I'm willing to go to protect what's mine." The possessiveness in his tone surprised them both. Lillian's eyes widened slightly. "Is that what I am? Yours?" Gabriel hesitated, unused to navigating emotional territory. "You're my wife, on paper at least." And beyond paper. He moved closer to her, drawn by something he couldn't explain. "I don't know. This wasn't part of the plan." "For either of us," she agreed softly. Their eyes locked, and the air between them seemed to crackle with tension. Gabriel found himself leaning toward her, his hand coming up to touch her cheek. The moment was shattered by the ringing of his phone. Gabriel checked the screen and frowned. "It's my father. I need to take this." He stepped away, answering the call. "Father?" "Gabriel, where are you?" "The board meeting is in an hour." Gabriel had completely forgotten. "I'm at the Hamptons' house. Something came up. More important than the quarterly board meeting. Marcus is already suggesting you're not taking your responsibilities seriously." "I'll be there," Gabriel said firmly. "There's just something I need to handle first." After ending the call, he turned to Lillian. "I have to go back to the city for a board meeting. You'll stay here with security until I return. How long will you be gone?" "Just overnight. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon." He hesitated, then added, "Will you be all right?" The concern in his voice was new, and Lillian noticed it. "I'll be fine. Be careful in the city." As Gabriel prepared to leave, Lillian followed him to the door. "Gabriel, thank you for everything you're doing." On impulse, she stood on tiptoe and kissed his cheek. The simple gesture sent a jolt through him, and before he could think better of it, Gabriel turned his head and captured her lips with his. The kiss deepened quickly, months of tension dissolving as Lillian's arms wound around his neck. Gabriel pulled her closer, one hand at her waist, the other tangled in her hair. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "I should go," Gabriel said, his voice rough. Lillian nodded, her lips still tingling from his kiss. "Hurry back." As Gabriel drove toward the city, his mind was in turmoil. That kiss had changed everything. His carefully constructed walls were crumbling, and he didn't know whether to rebuild them or let them fall. What he did know was that he would do whatever it took to keep Lillian safe, not because of their arrangement, not for the company or the board, but because somewhere along the line she had become important to him, and Gabriel Ashford protected what was important to him. No matter the cost. Gabriel arrived at Ashford Industries just in time for the board meeting. His father gave him a disapproving look as he took his seat, but Gabriel ignored it. His mind was still back in the Hamptons with Lillian. "Now that we're all here," Richard Ashford began, "let's discuss the Belmont Hotel project." Gabriel forced himself to focus. "I met with James Harrington yesterday. He's willing to support the zoning change, but he wants a partnership." Marcus, Gabriel's cousin, leaned forward. "The Harringtons are powerful allies. We should consider it." "I disagree," Gabriel said firmly. "My team has uncovered some concerning information about the Harrington family's business practices." He distributed folders to each board member. "Tax evasion, bribery of public officials, possible connections to organized crime." Do we really want to partner with them? The boardroom fell silent as everyone reviewed the documents. Where did you get this information? Richard asked, his voice tight. I have my sources, Gabriel replied. The point is, we need to distance ourselves from the Harringtons, not get closer to them, Marcus scoffed. This feels personal, cousin. What's really going on? Gabriel met his cousin's gaze steadily. I'm protecting the company, which is more than I can say for you. How much did the Harringtons offer you to push this partnership, Marcus? Marcus's face reddened. That's absurd. Is it? My sources tell me you've had 3 private meetings with Senator Harrington in the past month. Richard banged his hand on the table. Enough, Gabriel. See me in my office after this meeting. The rest of the board meeting was tense. When it concluded, Gabriel followed his father to his private office. What the hell was that? Richard demanded once the door closed. Accusing your cousin of taking bribes? Bringing unsubstantiated allegations against the Harringtons? The allegations are substantiated, Gabriel said calmly. And Marcus is definitely in their pocket. Richard sank into his chair, suddenly looking every bit his 70 years. Even if that's true, this is not how we handle things. The Harringtons could destroy us if they wanted to. They could try. What's gotten into you, Gabriel? You've never been this reckless. Gabriel hesitated. He couldn't tell his father the truth about Lillian, not without putting her at risk. I'm doing what's best for the company, he said instead. Trust me on this, father. Richard studied his son. This has something to do with your wife, doesn't it? Gabriel kept his expression neutral. Why would you think that? Because you've changed since you married her. You're different. Richard leaned forward. Is there something I should know? No, Gabriel replied too quickly. Everything is fine with Lillian. Then why are you hiding her away in the Hamptons? Gabriel tensed. How did you know that? I'm still the head of this family, son. Not much happens that I don't know about. Richard's voice softened slightly. Is she in some kind of trouble? For a moment, Gabriel considered telling his father everything, but the fewer people who knew Lillian's secret, the safer she would be. We just wanted some time away from the city, he said. That's all. Richard didn't look convinced, but he nodded. Fine. Keep your secrets, but deal with the Harrington situation carefully. We can't afford to make enemies of them. I'll handle it, Gabriel promised, already planning his next move. After the meeting, Gabriel headed to his penthouse to collect some papers before returning to the Hamptons. As he entered, he immediately sensed something was wrong. A lamp was overturned in the entryway, and there were signs of a struggle in the living room. His security system showed it had been disabled for 8 minutes earlier that day, professional work. Gabriel's heart raced as he pulled out his phone and called the head of security at the Hamptons house. Mr. Ashford, the man answered. How's my wife? Gabriel asked immediately. Mrs. Ashford is fine, sir. She's reading on the terrace right now. Relief washed over him. Don't let her out of your sight. And double the security patrol. I'm on my way back. Before he could leave, Gabriel's phone rang. Unknown number. Ashford, he answered cautiously. Hello, Gabriel. The voice was smooth, confident. James Harrington. I hope I'm not calling at... A bad time. Gabriel's grip tightened on his phone. What do you want, Harrington? Straight to business. I like that. James chuckled. I was just admiring some photographs I found at your penthouse. Your wife is quite transformed when she drops her little disguise. Ice filled Gabriel's veins. If you touched anything in my home, relax. I was just curious about the woman you married. Imagine my surprise when I realized she's my runaway fiancé. Ex-fiancé, Gabriel corrected, his voice deadly calm despite the rage building inside him. What do you want? A meeting. Just the 3 of us, for old time's sake. Not going to happen. James's voice hardened. Then perhaps I'll take my evidence of Lillian's deception to the press. Ashford heir deceived by fraudulent wife. That would make quite a headline, wouldn't it? You have nothing, Gabriel bluffed. Don't. I have photos from your own security cameras showing your wife's transformation. I have financial records showing how she changed her identity. I even have the medical records she tried to use against me. Falsified, of course. Gabriel's mind raced. When and where? Tomorrow night. The Belvedere Hotel, penthouse suite. 8 p.m. Come alone, just you and my dear Lillian. And if we refuse, then not only will I ruin her reputation, but I'll also make sure everyone knows. The Ashfords were complicit in her fraud. Your father's heart condition probably couldn't take that kind of stress, could it? The threat against his father made Gabriel's decision for him. We'll be there. Excellent, I'm looking forward to our reunion. After the call ended, Gabriel stood motionless for a moment, fury and fear warring within him. Then he called his most trusted security team member. Peter, I need everything you have on James Harrington. And I mean everything, weaknesses, secrets, vulnerabilities. I need it by tomorrow morning. When Gabriel arrived at the Hamptons' house, Lillian rushed to meet him at the door. What's wrong? She asked immediately, reading the tension in his face. Did something happen? Gabriel took her hand and led her to the library, away from the staff and security personnel. James broke into our penthouse. He watched her face, pale. He found pictures of you without your disguise. He knows who you are. Lillian sank into a chair. Oh, God. What does he want? A meeting. Tomorrow night at the Belvedere Hotel. Gabriel knelt in front of her, taking both her hands in his. Lillian, listen to me. You don't have to go. We can disappear, start over somewhere new. She looked surprised. You would do that? Leave everything, your company, your family, just to protect me. The answer came to Gabriel with startling clarity. Yes, without hesitation. Tears filled Lillian's eyes. I can't let you do that. This is my problem. I've been running for too long. It's our problem now, Gabriel insisted. I'm your husband. On. Take paper, she reminded him softly. Gabriel reached up to touch her cheek. Not just on paper, not anymore. He leaned forward and kissed her, pouring all his confused emotions into it. Protectiveness, desire, and something deeper that he wasn't ready to name. When they broke apart, Lillian's eyes were wide with wonder. Gabriel, I don't know when. It happened, he admitted, but you've become important to me, Lillian. More important than business deals or board meetings or even the Ashford name, she smiled through her tears. You've become important to me too. Then let me handle James. You don't have to face him. Lillian shook her head. No, we face him together. I'm tired of running, of hiding who I am. If I keep running, he wins. Gabriel nodded, admiring her courage. Then we go together. But we do it my way, with my security team nearby. Agreed. But Gabriel, be careful. James is dangerous when he feels cornered. So am I, Gabriel replied, his expression hardening. And he's threatened what's mine. He'll regret that. That night, while Lillian slept, Gabriel received the information he'd requested on James Harrington. What he found was even worse than he'd expected, evidence of multiple restraining orders from other women, all mysteriously withdrawn, financial improprieties that would destroy the Harrington political legacy, and connections to people who specialized in making problems disappear. James Harrington wasn't just a jealous ex, he was truly dangerous. Gabriel set the file aside and pulled out his phone, making a call he'd hoped to avoid. Do you know what time it is? His father's voice growled. Father, I need your help. It's about the Harringtons. Richard was silent for a moment. I'm listening. For the next 20 minutes, Gabriel explained everything. About Lillian's past, about James's threats, about the meeting scheduled for the next evening. He left out only the growing feelings between him and Lillian, keeping that private. When he finished, his father sighed heavily. So your marriage was a sham? It started that way, Gabriel admitted, but things have changed. You care for her. It wasn't a question, but Gabriel answered anyway. Yes. And you're willing to risk everything, our company, our reputation, to protect her? Yes. Another long silence. Then, the Ashfords take care of their own, son. Always have. If she's your wife, really your wife, not just on paper, then she's family. And we protect family. Relief flooded through Gabriel. Thank you, Father. Don't thank me yet. Meet me at my office tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. We have plans to make. And the next morning, Gabriel and Lillian drove into the city together. She had abandoned her disguise entirely. sitting beside him in the car looking like the beautiful woman she truly was. "Are you sure about this?" Gabriel asked as they approached the Ashford building. Lillian nodded. "If your father is going to help us, he deserves to meet the real me." Richard Ashford was waiting for them in his office, gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. When he turned and saw Lillian, his eyebrows shot up in surprise. "So this is the real Mrs. Ashford," he said, studying her. Lillian stepped forward, extending her hand. "Yes, sir, I'm sorry for the deception." Richard took her hand, his expression unreadable. "Gabriel explained your situation. Quite a story." "Every word of it is true," she said firmly. "I believe you." Richard gestured for them to sit. "Now, about tonight's meeting with James Harrington. I've made some calls." Gabriel leaned forward. "What kind of calls? The kind that remind people where their loyalties should lie?" Richard smiled coldly. "Senator Harrington and I have known each other for 30 years. We've both buried our share of secrets." "You have leverage over him," Gabriel realized. "Let's just say I reminded him that his son's behavior could have serious consequences for the family's political future." Richard turned to Lillian. "James doesn't know it yet, but his father has arranged for him to take an extended vacation abroad after your meeting tonight." Lillian looked skeptical. "James won't go quietly." "He will if the alternative is a federal investigation into the family's finances." Richard's expression softened slightly. "My son cares for you, which makes you family. The Ashfords protect their own." Tears welled in Lillian's eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Ashford. Call me Richard. We are family after all." He turned to Gabriel. "I've arranged for our security team to be in place at the Belvedere tonight. They'll stay out of sight unless needed." Gabriel nodded. "Perfect." "One more thing," Richard added. "The board needs to be told something. I suggest we say that Lillian's appearance change was for security reasons related to her work with domestic violence victims through the Ashford Foundation." "That's actually not far from the truth," Lillian said. Richard stood. "Then it's settled. Be careful tonight, both of you. James Harrington is a dangerous man, even with his father's leash tightening around his neck." As evening approached, Gabriel and Lillian prepared for their meeting with James. Lillian wore an elegant black dress that accentuated her natural beauty, while Gabriel opted for a tailored suit that concealed a small recording device. "Remember," Gabriel said as their car approached the Belvedere Hotel, "we stay calm, we get his threats on record, and we leave. Our security team is in place." Lillian nodded, though Gabriel could see the fear in her eyes. He took her hand. "I won't let him hurt you," he promised. "Never again." The penthouse suite of the Belvedere was opulent, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. James Harrington stood by the window, a glass of scotch in his hand. "There she is," he said as they entered, his eyes fixed on Lillian, the woman who ran away. Gabriel felt Lillian tense beside him, but was impressed by her composed expression. "Hello, James," she said coolly. James approached them, his smile not reaching his eyes. "You clean up nicely, Lillian, though I must say I prefer your natural look to that librarian disguise." "What do you want, Harrington?" Gabriel interrupted, stepping slightly in front of Lillian. James chuckled. "So protective. How touching." He gestured to the sitting area. "Please sit, let's be civilized." They sat, Gabriel keeping Lillian close beside him. "I'll get straight to the point," James said, swirling his scotch. "I want what's mine." "I was never yours," Lillian said firmly. "Oh, but you were. We were engaged, remember? And then you ran, tried to ruin my reputation with those false allegations." James leaned forward. "Do you know what that did to my political aspirations? Father had to call in a lot of favors to keep it quiet." "Those allegations weren't false," Gabriel said coldly. "I've seen the evidence." James waved a dismissive hand. "Easily fabricated. But that's not why we're here." "Then why are we here?" Lillian demanded. "Because I'm offering you a choice." James set down his glass. "Option 1. You come clean about your lies, make a public statement clearing my name, and return to Boston with me tonight." "That's not happening," Gabriel growled. "Then there's option 2, James continued, as if Gabriel hadn't spoken. "I release everything I have on Lillian to the press, Her deception, her false allegations, her fraudulent marriage to you. The Ashford name will be dragged through the mud." Gabriel smiled coldly. "You seem to have forgotten option 3. "And what's that?" "You leave now tonight for a long vacation abroad." "Your father has already arranged it." James's confident expression faltered. "What are you talking about?" "I spoke with Senator Harrington this morning," Gabriel explained. "He was very interested in the file I have about your extracurricular activities. The women, the bribes, the offshore accounts. He agreed it would be best if you took some time away from public scrutiny." "You're bluffing," James said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. "Am I?" Gabriel pulled out his phone and played a recording. The senator's voice clearly ordering his son to take the overseas posting and stay away from Lillian Ashford. James's face contorted with rage. "My father would never." "He would, and he did," Gabriel interrupted. "Family legacy is everything to the Harringtons. You've become a liability." "You bitch!" James snarled at Lillian, rising to his feet. "This is all your fault." He lunged toward her, but Gabriel was faster, intercepting him and driving him back against the wall with his forearm pressed against James's throat. "That's assault." "Caught on our recording device," Gabriel said quietly. "Give me a reason to press harder, Harrington. I'd enjoy it." For a moment, the two men remained locked in that position, hatred radiating from James's eyes. "Security is right outside," Lillian said, her voice steady despite her fear. "One word from me and they come in. It's over, James." Finally, James relaxed and Gabriel released him, stepping back. "You've won this round," James said, straightening his tie. "But don't think it ends here." "Actually, it does," Gabriel replied. "Your father has frozen your accounts. Your passport has been flagged. Either you take the overseas posting he arranged, or you face a federal investigation." James looked from Gabriel to Lillian, hatred burning in his eyes. "You deserve each. Other." He grabbed his coat and headed for the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. "Enjoy looking over your shoulder, Lillian. Forever is a long time." After James left, Gabriel immediately went to Lillian, taking her hands in his. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though she was trembling. "I think so. Is it really over?" "Almost." Gabriel guided her to the sofa. "My father's contacts will make sure James gets on that plane tonight. After that, the evidence we have should keep him in line." Relief washed over Lillian's face and she began to cry, not from fear but from the release of years of tension. Gabriel held her as she cried, his arms providing the security she had sought for so long. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest, "for believing me, for protecting me." "Always," he promised, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Back at the penthouse, Lillian stood on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Gabriel joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Penny, for your thoughts," he said softly. "I'm just processing. For so long, my life has been defined by fear, by hiding. I don't know who I am without that." Gabriel turned her to face him. "You're Lillian Ashford. You're brave, intelligent, and stronger than you know." She smiled up at him. "And what am I to you, Gabriel? Now that the deception is over and the danger is gone?" He studied her face, the face she no longer had to hide, and realized he had never seen anyone more beautiful. "You're my wife," he said simply. "Not because of a contract or an arrangement, but because somewhere along the way I fell in love with you." The words surprised even him. He hadn't planned to say them, hadn't even fully acknowledged the feeling to himself until that moment. Lillian's eyes widened. "You love me?" "Yes," Gabriel admitted, finding that once spoken, the truth was impossible to deny. "I love you, Lillian. The woman behind the glasses, the woman who stood up to her abuser, the woman who's been by my side these past months. All of you." Tears filled her eyes again, but these were different. Tears of joy, not sorrow. "I love you too, Gabriel. I think I have for a while now." He lowered his head and kissed her, a kiss of promise and new beginnings. When they broke apart, Lillian asked, "What happens now?" "Now," Gabriel said, "we start our real marriage. No more hiding, no more pretending." "I'd like that," she whispered, leaning her head against his chest. As they stood together on the balcony, Gabriel realized that the marriage that had begun as a business arrangement had given him something he never knew he wanted: love and a partner to share his life with. Richard Ashford had been right. Gabriel had changed since marrying Lillian, and it was the best change of his life. The next morning, Gabriel woke to find Lillian's side of the bed empty. For a moment, panic seized him. Had she left? Had James somehow returned? Then he heard movement in the kitchen and followed the sound, finding Lillian making coffee, dressed in one of his shirts that hung like a dress on her smaller frame. "Good morning," she said, smiling when she saw him. Relief and happiness flooded through him. "Good morning." She handed him a mug of coffee. "I called your assistant. I hope you don't mind, but I cancelled your meetings today." Gabriel raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And why is that?" "Because," Lillian said, stepping closer, "I thought we deserved a day just for us, to figure out what our marriage looks like now that it's real." He set down his coffee and pulled her into his arms. "I like the way you think, Mrs. Ashford." As he held her, Gabriel marveled at how completely his life had changed. The cold, calculating businessman who had agreed to a marriage of convenience was gone, replaced by a man who had found something far more valuable than any business deal. He had found love with the woman who had once hidden from the world, his hidden bride now hidden no longer. 6 months had passed since the confrontation with James Harrington. True to his word, Senator Harrington had sent his son to manage their business interests in Europe, far away from Lillian and Gabriel. Life at the Ashford penthouse had settled into a comfortable routine. Lillian continued her work with the library's literacy program, now fully supported by the Ashford Foundation. Gabriel had softened his ruthless business approach, becoming known for both his shrewd deals and his philanthropic efforts. On a crisp autumn morning, Gabriel woke to find Lillian, already dressed and sipping coffee by the window. "You're up early," he said, joining her. She smiled, handing him a cup. "Big day at the foundation. We're launching the new women's shelter program." Gabriel nodded proudly. After their experience with James, Lillian had become passionate about helping women escape abusive relationships. The Ashford Foundation now funded a comprehensive program that provided housing, legal aid, and job training. "You've done amazing work with that," Gabriel said, kissing her forehead. "How many women will the shelter house?" 20 initially, with plans to expand next year. Lillian's eyes shone with enthusiasm. "Each woman gets her own apartment, counseling services, childcare if needed. It's everything I wish I'd had when I was running from James." Gabriel wrapped an arm around her waist. "You turned your pain into purpose. That's what makes you extraordinary." She leaned against him. "We did it together. I couldn't have accomplished any of this without your support." Their moment was interrupted by Gabriel's phone ringing. He checked the screen and frowned. "It's my father. He never calls this early." "Gabriel," Richard's voice sounded strained when he answered. "You and Lillian need to come to my office, immediately." "What's wrong?" "James Harrington is back in the country." Gabriel's grip tightened on the phone. "That's impossible. We have people monitoring his movements. He slipped away 3 days ago, used a fake passport." Richard paused. "There's more. He's made contact with Marcus." Marcus, Gabriel's cousin, had been sidelined at the company after his dealings with the Harringtons had come to light. "What does Marcus have to do with this? Just get here, both of you." 30 minutes later, Gabriel and Lillian arrived at Richard's office in the Ashford building. Richard wasn't alone. 2 men in dark suits stood by the window, private security. "From the look of them." "What's going on, Father?" Gabriel demanded. Richard gestured for them to sit. "Our sources in Europe lost track of James 3 days ago. He was supposed to be in Geneva for a banking conference, but he never arrived." "And you think he's back in New York?" Lillian asked, her voice remarkably steady despite the news. "We know he is." Richard nodded to one of the security men, who placed a folder on the desk. "These were taken yesterday outside the company's Midtown property. The photos showed James Harrington and Marcus Ashford in deep conversation, heads close together." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Marcus is working with him?" "It appears so. Marcus has been bitter since you exposed his dealings with the Harringtons. He blames you for his demotion." "What do they want?" Lillian asked. Richard looked grim. "Revenge, most likely. Against both of you. Gabriel took Lillian's hand. We've faced James before. We'll handle this. This time is different, Richard warned. James has nothing to lose. His father has all but disowned him after that stunt he pulled in Europe, embezzlement from the family foundation. And Marcus knows the company inside and out. So what do we do? Gabriel asked. For now, you take precautions. Richard gestured to the security men. These gentlemen will be your shadows until this is resolved, and you both need to be careful. No. Predictable routines, no unnecessary outings. Lillian nodded, her expression determined. We've dealt with worse. Richard smiled at his daughter-in-law with genuine affection. You're an Ashford now. We stand our ground. The next few days passed in tense anticipation. Gabriel doubled the security at both the penthouse and his office. Lillian postponed the shelter opening, focusing instead on working from home. One evening, as they were finishing dinner, Lillian's phone chimed with a text message. Her face paled as she read it. What is it? Gabriel asked immediately. She handed him the phone. The message was from an unknown number. Did you really think changing your name would keep you safe? You still owe me, Lillian. Meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Park Boathouse. Come alone or Gabriel will learn what else you've been hiding. Gabriel looked up sharply. What is he talking about? What else have you been hiding? Lillian's hands twisted in her lap. Nothing important. Lillian. Gabriel's voice was gentle but firm. No more secrets between us, remember? She took a deep breath. Before I met you, when I was hiding from James, I did some things I'm not proud of. What kind of things? I needed money to disappear. My librarian's salary wasn't enough. She couldn't meet his eyes. I took some jewelry from James before I left, pieces he had given me, and I sold information about his family's business dealings to a rival company. Gabriel. I was quiet for a moment. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because it makes me look like exactly what James claimed. A liar, a thief. I was afraid you wouldn't believe the rest of my story if you knew. Gabriel took her hands in his. You did what you had to do to survive. I don't blame you for that. Tears filled her eyes. You don't? Of course not. But Lillian, you're not meeting him tomorrow. This is obviously a trap. If I don't go, he said he'd tell you he can't hurt us with the truth anymore, Gabriel said firmly. We face this together, remember? Lillian nodded, relief washing over her face. Together. Gabriel texted the security team about the message. Within minutes, his phone rang. Mr. Ashford, the head of security said, we've traced the message. It wasn't sent from James Harrington's phone. It came from inside the Ashford building. Marcus, Gabriel realized. He's working with James, sending messages on his behalf. He hung up and turned to Lillian. Change of plans. We're going to set a trap of our own. The next day, at precisely 3 p.m., Lillian approached the Central Park Boathouse. She wore a casual outfit with a scarf covering her hair and large sunglasses hiding her eyes. To anyone watching, she appeared to be alone. In reality, Gabriel and 2 security men were positioned nearby, and Lillian wore a small microphone hidden in her scarf. She sat on a bench overlooking the water, waiting. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, a man sat beside her, not James, but Marcus. Hello, Lillian, he said without looking at her. Beautiful day for a walk in the park. Where's James? She asked quietly. Around. Marcus smiled coldly. He thought it best if I handled the preliminary discussion. What do you want? Straight to business, I see why my cousin married you. Marcus adjusted his position to face her. What we want is simple. Control of Ashford Industries. Lillian didn't react. And how exactly do you expect me to help with that? By convincing Gabriel to step down, resign his position, support me as the new CEO. Why would he ever do that? Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a screen. Because, if he doesn't, these photos go public. And not just to Gabriel, to everyone. Lillian glanced at the phone. The photos showed her meeting with a man she recognized, one of the Harringtons' business rivals. That was years ago, she said. Yes, but the story we'll tell is that it was recent. That you've been selling Ashford Company secrets just like you sold Harrington secrets. Marcus put the phone away. Gabriel might forgive your past, but the board won't. His reputation will be destroyed along with yours. Lillian kept her composure. And if he does step down, then these disappear. You and Gabriel can keep your perfect little life just without the company. I'll need time to talk to him. You have until tomorrow morning. Marcus stood. James is very eager to settle this score, Lillian. Don't test his patience. As Marcus walked away, Gabriel emerged from his hiding spot and sat beside her. You heard? She asked. Gabriel nodded, his expression dark. Every word. What do we do now? Now, Gabriel said, we end this, once and for all. And that evening, Gabriel called an emergency board meeting at the Ashford mansion. His father was there along with all the senior board members. Security personnel were stationed throughout the property. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, Gabriel began. I've called this meeting because Ashford Industries is under threat from within. He laid out everything. Marcus's conspiracy with James Harrington, the blackmail attempt against Lillian, the plan to force Gabriel's resignation. My cousin has betrayed this family, Gabriel concluded, and he's working with a man who has proven himself dangerous and unstable. The board members looked shocked. Marcus had always been well-liked, if not particularly respected. These are serious allegations, one board member said. Do you have proof? Gabriel nodded to his security chief, who played the recording from the park meeting. The board listened in stunned silence. Move to remove Marcus Ashford from the board immediately, Richard said when the recording ended, and to begin legal proceedings for his breach of fiduciary duty. The vote was unanimous. Marcus would be removed, and criminal charges were being considered. As the meeting concluded, Gabriel's phone rang. It was the head of security from the penthouse. Mr. Ashford, there's been a break-in at your home. The alarm was disabled professionally. Gabriel's heart raced. Was anything taken? Not that we can tell, sir, but something was left behind. A note on your bed. What does it say? It's addressed to Mrs. Ashford. It says, "This isn't over. I always collect what's owed to me." Gabriel immediately called Lillian, who was supposed to be at the Ashford Foundation office with her own security detail. "Lillian, are you all right?" he asked when she answered. "I'm fine. Is everything okay at the board meeting?" "Marcus is out, but James broke into our penthouse. Left a threatening note." Gabriel's voice was tight with worry. "Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you." "Gabriel, I'm fine, really. The security team is with me. Still, don't leave the building until I get there." Gabriel ended the call and turned to his father. "James is escalating, breaking into our home, leaving threats." Richard looked concerned. "Be careful, son. A man with nothing to lose is dangerous. I know, that's why I need to end this tonight." When Gabriel arrived at the Ashford Foundation building, something felt wrong. The security guard at the front desk wasn't one he recognized. "Where's Reynolds?" Gabriel demanded, referring to the usual security guard. "Called in sick, sir," the man replied. "I'm covering his shift." Gabriel's instincts screamed danger. He pulled out his phone to call Lillian, but there was no signal. "Jammed," a voice said from behind him. "Standard procedure when you want to have a private conversation." Gabriel turned to find James Harrington standing there, a small pistol held casually at his side. "Where is my wife?" Gabriel asked, his voice deadly calm. "Waiting for us upstairs," James replied with a smile. "Shall we?" Gabriel considered his options. The building would be mostly empty at this hour. His security team was waiting outside, but they'd have no way of knowing something was wrong. "After you," he said to James, deciding it was best to play along until he could assess the situation. In the elevator, James kept the gun pointed at Gabriel. "You know, I almost have to thank you," he said conversationally. "If you hadn't married Lillian, I might never have found her. And now I get to destroy both of you. If you hurt her—" "Relax, I'm not a monster," James chuckled. "I just want what she owes me." The elevator opened on the Foundation's main floor. James gestured with the gun for Gabriel to exit first. The Kamavi's office was dark except for a light in the conference room. Gabriel could see Lillian sitting at the table, her back to the door. She appeared to be alone. "Lillian," he called out. She turned, her face showing relief when she saw him, then fear when she noticed James behind him. "I'm sorry," she said. "He had a gun. The security team is taking a little nap," James finished, pushing Gabriel into the room. "Don't worry, they're just unconscious. I'm not here to kill anyone." "Then what do you want?" Gabriel demanded. James sat down across from Lillian, keeping the gun trained on Gabriel. Like I told your lovely wife here, I want compensation for the jewelry she stole, for the company's secrets she sold, for the damage to my reputation. Name your price, Gabriel said immediately. $10 million, wire transfer to an offshore account tonight. Gabriel didn't hesitate. Done, let me call my bank. James smiled. See how easy that was? But first I want something else. He turned to Lillian. I want her to admit what she really is, a liar, a thief, a fraud. I want her to say it to your face, Gabriel. Lillian looked at Gabriel, her eyes full of regret. It's true, I stole from him. I sold his family's business information. I was desperate and scared. I know, Gabriel said softly, and I don't care. It doesn't change how I feel about you. James's face twisted with anger. How touching. The cold-hearted businessman forgives, the lying thief. But will your board be so forgiving when they learn the truth about your wife? The board already knows everything, Gabriel replied calmly. We had a meeting tonight. We discussed Lillian's past, your threats, your partnership with Marcus. Everything is in the open now. James's confidence faltered. You're bluffing. Am I? Check. The business news. Marcus Ashford has been removed from the board. The press release went out an hour ago. James checked his phone, his face darkening as he read the headlines. Gabriel continued. Your leverage is gone, James. There are no more secrets for you to expose. James stood suddenly, waving the gun. Then I'll just have to settle for the money. Call your bank now. Gabriel pulled out his phone slowly. The phone signal is still jammed. Use the landline, James snapped, pointing to the conference room phone. As Gabriel reached for it, Lillian suddenly stood up. I have a counteroffer, James. Both men looked at her in surprise. I recorded everything you've done tonight, she said steadily. The threats, the gun, holding us against our will. It's being streamed directly to the police as we speak. You're lying, James said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. The pin on my blouse, Lillian explained, pointing to a small flower-shaped brooch. It's a camera. The Ashford security team developed it after your first threat. James turned the gun toward her. Turn it off now. It's too late, she said. They already have enough, and they know exactly where we are. As if on cue, sirens became audible in the distance, growing louder. James looked panicked. You're both going to regret this. No, James, Gabriel said, stepping between Lillian and the gun. You're the one with regrets. It's over. For a terrible moment, Gabriel thought James might actually shoot, but instead James lowered the gun. This isn't over, he said, backing toward the door. Not by a long shot. He turned to run, but as he opened the conference room door, he came face to face with 4 police officers, their weapons drawn. James Harrington, one officer said, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, assault, kidnapping, and illegal possession of a firearm. As the police handcuffed James, Gabriel rushed to Lillian, pulling her into his arms. Are you all right? He asked, checking her for injuries. I'm fine, she assured him. The security team? Being seen to by paramedics, a police officer informed them. They'll be okay. Lillian sagged against Gabriel in relief. It's really over this time. He held her tightly. Yes, it's over. 1 month later, Gabriel and Lillian stood in the newly opened Ashford Foundation Women's Shelter. The ribbon-cutting ceremony had just concluded, and they were taking a private tour of the facility. This is amazing, Gabriel said, looking around at the modern apartments, counseling rooms, and childcare center. You've created something extraordinary. Here, Lillian squeezed his hand. We created it together. The shelter director approached them. Mrs. Ashford, the residents would like to thank you personally. Would you mind? Of course not, Lillian replied warmly. In the community room, a group of women, all survivors of domestic abuse, waited to meet her. One stepped forward, a woman, in her 40s with quiet dignity in her bearing. Mrs. Ashford, I just wanted to say thank you, not just for this place, but for showing us that there's life after fear, that we can be strong again. Lillian embraced the woman. You were always strong. Sometimes we just need a safe place to remember that. Later, as they walked back to their car, Gabriel said, You know, when I agreed to marry you, I never imagined this is where we'd end up. Lillian smiled up at him. Disappointed? Quite the opposite. He stopped walking and turned to face her. I thought I was getting a business arrangement. Instead, I got a partner, a purpose, and a love I never knew I wanted. Not bad for an arranged marriage, she teased. Gabriel pulled her into his arms. Not bad at all. As they drove away, Lillian looked back at the shelter. A symbol of transformation, of turning pain into purpose, of finding strength in vulnerability. Just like their marriage. What had begun as a cold contract, a convenient arrangement, had become something neither of them had expected, a true partnership built on honesty, trust, and love. Gabriel reached over and took her hand. "What are you thinking about?" Lillian smiled. "About how sometimes the things we hide, our true selves, our feelings, our past, aren't as scary to reveal as we think. Especially when you find the right person to reveal them to," Gabriel added, bringing her hand to his lips. The sun was setting over the city as they drove home, casting a golden glow over the streets. Lillian no longer needed to hide her beauty, her past, or her feelings. And Gabriel, once cold and distant, had discovered that opening his heart hadn't made him weak. It had made him stronger. The hidden bride was hidden no more. And the man who had married her for convenience had found something far more valuable, a love worth fighting for. At the Ashford penthouse that evening, Gabriel and Lillian sat on their balcony, watching the city lights come alive as darkness fell. "I received a call from the prosecutor today," Gabriel said, breaking their comfortable silence. "James is taking a plea deal. He'll serve 5 years for the kidnapping and weapons charges." "And Marcus?" Lillian asked. 2 years probation and community service. Father thought a public trial would hurt the company too much." Lillian nodded. "It's finally over then, truly over." "Yes." Gabriel's expression grew serious. "Which means we can move forward with our lives, our real lives together." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know we're already married, but that was an arrangement. This..." He opened the box to reveal a stunning emerald ring. "This is me asking you, Lillian Gray Ashford, to be my wife. Not on paper, not for the board, but for me. Because I love you." Tears filled Lillian's eyes. "We're already married, remember? Then consider this a renewal of our vows. A fresh start." Lillian held out her hand, letting him slide the ring onto her finger. "Yes. To a real marriage, to a fresh start. To us." Gabriel pulled her into his arms and kissed her, a kiss that sealed their promise to each other, to build a life based on truth, not hiding, on love, not convenience. The woman who had once disguised herself to escape her past had found a future where she could finally be herself. And the man who had once cared only for business had discovered that the greatest asset in his life was the love he shared with his once hidden bride. "To us," Gabriel whispered against her lips. "No more hiding." "No more hiding," Lillian agreed, as they looked toward their future together, open, honest, and filled with promise.